Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Pacific Horseplayers right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your host, Noah Meagher, joined by my wonderful friend and co-host who is jamming out to our intro song, Mr. Ryan Anderson, as we will be bringing you this week Big Cap Day, covering Big Cap Day, of course, at Santa Anita. 4 stakes races on the card, terrific card that we're going to be dibbling into here in a moment. 2 grade 1s, 2 grade 2s, so a great card ahead, like I said. Of course, before we get into that and the special guests that we will be having to help us out with that, of course, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. Prapic's tip sheet still going true and well. You can go purchase those and go check that out here at our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Last thing I want to plug before we bring on our guest, of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, like button, all that good stuff. Road to 5K. I believe we're at 4,900 and change. I think about 82 or 86 last time I checked. So make sure you go do that because there's a lot of hard work, dedication that goes into all 3 of the shows that we do. Actually, all 4 of the shows that we do. Monday's optional, of course. So go do that, show this love and support. And then I'll get that off here. And let's go ahead and see who we've got in the chat. Katie, of course, is here early because she's ready for the big cap. Matt is here. He is psyched to see Caleb, who will be joining us in just a second. Terry Frank is here, of course. Jim Pilars, good friend of the podcast. Who else do we have? The boss is here. Big races this weekend. Looking forward to our shows. He's got some strong opinions, so he'll be adding some comments to our live chat. And we've got people coming in as we speak. But let's go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and get our guest on from FanDuel TV and a good friend of mine, Mr. Caleb Keller. Caleb, obviously we talked before the show, but for the viewers, how you doing?
Noah and Ryan doing very well. Thanks for having me on. And a nice weekend at Santa Anita. This has always been a hallmark program. Yes, the Santa Anita Handicap doesn't necessarily hold the weight that it did like 100 years ago when it started and attracted the likes of Seabiscuit out to become one of the most famous non-derby races in America. But still, a lot of importance here, and looking forward to the grade 1s and the discussion as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, good weekend out there. So you are out in California, correct? How will people find you when you are covering the card on Saturday?
I'm actually going to be at Santa Anita on Saturday. We got a big old crew. Not many destinations to get to outside of California. So we got one of our biggest crews at Santa Anita this weekend. Haven't gotten the schedule just yet to figure out if I'll be doing the interviews or up there on the set. But got some real heavy heads that we've been waiting a while to see.
Yes, that is definitely for sure. Here is a co-host of ours, Mr. Pete Bisco. He is on our Picks and Pony show. He says, hey, everyone, and him as well. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. I'll go ahead and start with the Equibase, of course, as we start on the show. In terms of the races that we'll be covering, we're going to start with the 1 graded stakes race outside of the Pick 5, which is race 3. And then we will get into the late Pick 5, which is races 7 through 11. But like I said, we will start with race 3. Race 3 is up here on the screen now. It is a grade 2 Buena Vista. It's 1 o'clock local time. 1 mile on the turf, running for $200,000. Fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. As you can see on the screen, we've got a field of 7. And of course, we have picks that will be on the bottom of the screen. And there they are. And we are very similar. I'm going 6.25. Ryan's going 6.52. Caleb is going 6.52 as well. So the 2 other guys besides me are exactly the same. Caleb, of course, you're the guest, so we'll start with you with the 6 Alpha Bella, for Hector Barrios and John Sadler.
Wow, she's been going well. Okay, 3 straight seconds, but all to monsters. Cavalieri, the expensive Nyquist, Hope Road was on a roll. Sugarfish adores Santa Anita. But what really caught, I think, all of our attention, this is, we're talking about Pacific Horseplayers here. And if you follow the workout report for Andy Harrington, I mean, he's been on Alpha Bella for a while. Got the rare A-, only a few given out on the year. And, Alpha Bella also, too, if you just scratch off the good and yielding turf courses, Justify was a big hulking horse. Alpha Bella is a big hulking horse. The bigger the horse, in my mind, the less they want to run on soft ground. So really the turf form, if you cross out the good and yielding turf, looks really nice into low 90 buyer land, and that should be real competitive here.
Yeah, I think so as well. Ryan, obviously, she's run on dirt the last 3 times, but it looks like she's kept some pretty good company on the dirt as well.
She definitely has. She's kept good company, dirt or turf, and I think she's just faced better than the rest of this field. Obviously, I thought I was being a little bit creative, trying to beat Rashmi in here, but I think we all had that kind of similar thinking. And Caleb, thanks for bringing up the A-. That was also something that caught my eye. I mean, clearly this mare is just working lights out, and she should fire a big effort on turf. Sadler's also like 15% dirt to turf and stakes, so that's also something to throw in there. But I think Alpha Bell is just better than has faced better than these and should find the winner circle here.
Yeah, I thought this was an interesting spot to put her because I believe the Beholder Mile is next weekend on March 8th. So obviously Sadler thinks that she can get back to the turf and get back to her winning ways. Let's go ahead and move to the filly to her inside, Rashmi. Ryan, you've got her in second. Of course, all of us have her in the top 3. Just a win machine, especially in a mile over down in Southern California.
Yeah, definitely a mile seems to be this one's kind of specialist distance. The mile and a quarter, she ran fine. She was behind a monster, and she feels pretty that day. But she kind of showed a new dimension, being able to come from off the paces. Her previous 2 were pretty much like kind of right on or near the lead. So I think she's just got some good tactical ability. I think here in the megahertz, I mean, she makes a lot of sense. I think she sets up well. She's definitely the horse to beat on, I think, turf form. But again, Alpha Bello for me was on top. But Rashmi certainly deserves some respect here.
Caleb, anything to add with her, and where do you see her kind of early on in the race? Because it looks like there could be some speed, and I guess one horse we should mention is all the way to the inside, and Tirupati, who also is for Jonathan Thomas, but she only ran 3 days ago, so I think maybe where she ends up could have a lot to do with if the one decides to run.
Yeah, if Tirupati comes back, we've already seen with Rashmi. I know you guys were talking before the show started that Thomas brought back Rashmi in like basically a week's time. Tirupati is an interesting horse. I interviewed Jonathan Thomas this weekend, and I know they really like this horse. But how about this? You never see this: a horse that got claimed from you for $25,000, and then you come back and purchase the horse for double that at $50,000. So they realized they made a mistake. Thomas told me they're trying to sneak one through for $25,000, and somebody was sage enough to claim. But they got a lot of confidence in the one. But going back to Rashmi. This is something I've noticed over the years of handicapping, and it's a very prevailing trend. It's the correlation of the second to last post to the last call there in the past performance. And what I mean by that is, if you look at Rashmi, this is a classic example. The 4 times that Rashmi has led the race turning for home, clearly all 4 were wins. And then the 4 times that she didn't have complete control of the race turning for home, she didn't win. So Rashmi is one of those horses, when you look at it, she really wants to assert herself turning for home with the lead.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and could certainly be something to factor in. I guess the last horse we'll touch on is the only other horse that we have in the top 3, Uncorked, who ran a really nice second last time in the Golden Cove. I believe that was on Breeders' Cup weekend. Caleb, we'll start with you. Anything that you like about this 6-year-old mare?
This is a nice horse, Uncorked, a rare Australian bred running in America. I actually really liked her, the yellow ribbon. What was it here? Yeah, I was trying to get clever to defeat Anisette. Yeah, and Anisette was just way too classy. But Uncorked, I thought she had a bad setup in the game late, running 8th, crossed that one out. Kind of a pluggy horse, a little bit underneath in the graded stakes ranks, but I think D'Amato does better at Del Mar he can, of course, win at Santa Anita. But Del Mar, a couple things are happening. Number 1, his horses are peaking. Number 2, his top clients, the Euros coming over, and also Little Red Feather, they point there. And number 3, Del Mar's got a longer stretch where you can close on with that patented D'Amato kick. But Uncorked, like the horse, sometimes has been a little bit underneath, though.
Brian, I think her form may be a little dirtied up, too. You look at her 2-mile races ever since she got into the D'Amato barn. A win for the first time in the barn, and then last time with a nice second. Would you like about her?
Yeah, I like that a mile she seems to fit her the best, and then more than that, she seems to fire pretty well fresh. She ran a decent second in the Yellow Ribbon Handicap, coming right into a grade 2, and then off the trainer switch from Brittany Russell, going November to April, she ran really well in the I believe it's the Royal Heroine. But yeah, ran pretty well there. Again, that one was at a mile. I think this is a logical comeback spot for this one after kind of a brief winter off, and I expect her to fire a pretty big shot. Obviously, D'Amato kind of dials things down after Del Mar, and then this is kind of when he ramps everything back up. And seeing this horse show up right back into grade 2 makes me think that she's still doing just as well as she was when she left off.
Yeah, aggressive spots put her in for sure. Last thing I will add, I believe she was working with Almendaris, who we will talk about in just a little bit. But that's enough for race 3. I'm going 6.25. Ryan's going 6.52. and Caleb is going 6-5-2 as well. I'll go ahead and get up the next race. The next race that we're going to be talking about starts the late pick 5, race 7, 3 o'clock Pacific time. Starts with an allowance optional claiming 50,000, 6 furlongs on the turf for a purse of 67,000. We've got 4-year-old fillies and up again, this time a field of 11. Morning line favoritism could go a number of ways. I think this is one of the more difficult races that we will be talking about. Picks are up on the screen, and that certainly reflects it. I'm going 4-1-2. Ryan's going 2-4-3, and Caleb is going 7-3-2. Ryan, you're going with Wordplay, a horse that we've definitely mentioned a couple times on the show. Seems to always get bet and seems like she's got a really good shot, just hasn't quite been able to get over the hump lately.
Yeah, this kind of goes against one of my beliefs is that this horse has had 3 tries pretty much at the same level, 4 if you kind of count that effort at Del Mar as well. I just think the flat 6 furlongs is kind of going to be in her wheelhouse. I think down the hill was an okay effort. I think the mile she was pretty good, and I think if she cuts back to the flat 6 furlongs here, I think that puts her in the winner's circle. I like the jockey switch to Rispoli. Obviously, he has a great feel of the West Coast turf courses out here. No shot at the Tory. He also rides fantastic out here, but I love seeing Rispoli get aboard for Callahan. Should be in a nice spot around the back and hopefully just kind of gets first run on any deep closers. But this is a tough race. A lot of muddied up form in here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Caleb, you've got her third. Do you think she's a logical win contender, or have you kind of seen enough of her?
No, I like the form lines, and I like the fact that there's an unknown about, as Ryan mentioned, going to the turf sprint flat, which we haven't seen just yet. But right there versus some nice horses, and Rispoli, got to like him carving out the inside ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to let her beat me if I've got her on tickets. Caleb, we'll go to you with a horse that certainly should be a decent price on the board. This is a speeding mare for the Hess Barn with Tyler Bays aboard. That's the 7, Miss Mandalay.
You know, they've worked backwards in distances. When Miss Mandalay came over and started racing at Del Mar, it wasn't any good, 7th, 11th, and 8th. But those were all miles. Once they came back to the sprint, got a nice win. And then third to Queen Maxima. You want to get you some of that Queen Maxima form because that is a horse that's turning into the best turf sprinter. Absolutely aired in the Wishing Well this weekend. And Miss Mandalay, how about this one? Every single time the buyers have gotten better. So eventually you hit your head on the ceiling. But as we're riding the curve up, I think they can actually probably relax off the pace. They took the blinkers off last time and they still made the early lead. I think this is a race where they sit close but give up the lead. And maybe they put themselves in the perfect outside striking position.
I like it. No, with the outside post, I think Bays is going to kind of break, look to his left, and kind of dictate things from there. Maybe sit a little similar trip or maybe a little bit closer to what she did going 5 down in the fall at Del Mar when she was finally able to break her maiden from coming over. That's the 7. I'll go ahead and go to the 4, who's my top pick. Ryan, I'll let you touch on her first. She's one that has had certainly a number of chances. I mean, it took her 11 tries to break her maiden. She finally did it. She ran a really nice third last time, but you just can't help but notice with that 1 for 13, right?
Yeah, 9 seconds and thirds is not ideal. That's why I couldn't pick this filly on top. But I did like the 6 furlong effort going 3 back when this one broke the maiden. She kind of figured things out. Kimura gave her a great ride that day. Went down the hill. Another one that I don't think that was really her style. She finished off pretty well. Didn't seem to handle the dirt crossing great. So again, another one I think the flat 6 furlongs could move this one up, similar to that race where this one broke her maiden after a long try, just trying to get into the winner's circle. I think she has a chance to find it again.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I've got her on top in what seems to be a pretty difficult race. You know, Callahan could have easily just kind of thrown her in a maiden claiming spot for a tag, and she could have gotten swept up, but kept her in maiden special weight company. Was finally able to get the job done, like I said, after 11 starts. I think you can toss the mile race. She doesn't want to go that far. She was really eager early on in that race. And then last time, I thought she ran a really nice race. The 2 horses she lost to, Venganza and Miss Roberts. Venganza just kind of got the inside run of things, and Miss Roberts was really flying late. So I thought the 3rd in that spot was pretty good. I guess the next horse that we will touch on, let's go to the 3. Let's go to the 3 Thermal. Caleb, you've got her in second, the newcomer. Off of a long layoff, hasn't been seen since November of 2023. But it looks like she's training like lights out in the mornings. You got any info on her?
Well, check out that first race for Thermal. Was favored against Chattelis, so we know won the Chandelier, won the Indiana Oaks. Barbara T was in there. The last time Barbara T ran, she won a maiden at Keeneland by 11. So the Thermal was always well regarded. They switched to the turf. They got some good results. Working really fast. So the layoff doesn't necessarily concern me. Very expensive. But also, look, I'm mostly looking for closers like you guys in these races. But you still have to respect the speed. And the other speed is probably the Uno, and the one stumbled last time. So there's a chance that Thermal gets on a big-time sin and has a lot of talent and the betting dollars to prove it.
Yeah, Ryan, you've got her in third. Anything else?
Yeah, just another kind of fresh face in here. Comes off that long layoff, but Sadler does pretty well off this, hitting at 23% over a $2 ROI. Strong work in 46 and change coming in here. So that just shows me that this one seems to be kind of sitting on go and should be ready. And obviously that the fact that they bring her back in a protected spot has to be a vote of confidence. I know she costs $625,000, but to have, over a year off and then to come back still in protected spot, I think this is a logical place for her.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. The last horse we will touch on is one that the boss brings up, Mr. Howard Kravitz. In the 5, Andiamo Ragazza. This was a horse I was a little bit of a fan of last time in the Sunshine Millions Filly and Mare Turf Sprint. That's quite a long name. Either of you give this one a look. Caleb, we'll start with you.
Well, 2 for 2 sprinting on the turf flat at Golden Gate and Del Mar. Looks pretty nice. And Peter Miller has just been like the turf king sprinting. He had the 3 turf sprint winners in a row. He had Stormy Liberal, and then Stormy Liberal again, and then Belvoir Bay. And how about the next year he had a horse named Texas Wedge, who was a long shot that took the lead in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint at Keeneland. So he had 3 turf sprint wins in a row and a lead at mid-stretch at Keeneland. So one of the things about Miller, the sprint is always the name of the game, but he also gets his horse to kind of rake back pretty kindly. So they're fast, but they have more to give down the stretch. So I'd never be against a Peter Miller on a turf sprint.
I got to ask, Caleb, are you a Texas Wedge kind of guy?
All the time. If it's closely known, pull out that 2-ball, read the break, and hop that thing over.
I love it. Matt's got a question for you. He says, any chance you'll be at the Grade 1 Gamble at Keeneland this year to join the crew, NHC, Saratoga, any of those times? I'll let you break the bad news about Keeneland.
Okay, so Keeneland, I'm going to be there for, looks like the final 2 weeks of the meeting, and then I'll be through the Derby as well. But look, we have an amazing crew that's already in Kentucky now. So we used to always come from California to cover Keeneland, but a lot of our longtime, California hosts aren't necessarily making the trip out because we have so many that already do a great job in Kentucky. But still happy to be a part of the gig. Me and I do believe Todd Schrupp going to be coming back. Scott Hazleton does the in-house. But to Matt, great stuff on that book. Certainly enjoyed some of the angles on that, and get yourself a nice a buttery tub of popcorn from the movie theater and enjoy it.
Of course. Yeah. If any of you guys that are watching are going to be at Keeneland over the last couple of weeks, make sure you go check Caleb out at the set, because that's what I first did when Caleb and I were first getting to know each other. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move on. Race 7, I'm going 4-1-2. Ryan's going 2-4-3, and Caleb is going 7-3-2. Race 8, we are back to stakes company with the DK horse San Felipe Stakes. It's a grade 2, 330 local. There are obviously Kentucky Derby points for this race. I'm not sure how it gets affected with the small field of 6. Maybe some
unaffected.
Unaffected
Fields of 5 or smaller, which,
Wow. I'm quite surprised by that. Anyway, again, field of 6, morning line favorite, most likely the 3 Barnes for Juan Hernandez and Bob Baffert. And then the other 2 that will most likely take money, the 2 Journalism and the 4 Rodriguez. I'll get the picks up on the screen, and those 3 are what we have. I'm going 3-4-2. Ryan's going 3-2-4, and Caleb is going 4-3-2. Ryan, I will go back to – actually, you know what? Let's start with Caleb. Caleb with the 4 Rodriguez, an authentic colt that, to be honest, I almost put this horse on top. I like him a lot. Should get the lead. What do you like about this 3-year-old colt?
Well, okay, let's take Barnes' reputation out of the equation and just look at it from a strict handicapping perspective on just a regular day. Rodriguez, out of the 2, Rodriguez has the 2-mile races. Rodriguez has the higher buyer. Rodriguez has the reigning champion jockey. And meanwhile, he's going to be the bigger, maybe even double price of Barnes. So, for Rodriguez, I think that obviously they had to pull him back last time, and they'll probably pull him back here. This is interesting. I think Barnes probably will go to the lead, but you never know how they work it out early. But, Rodriguez, I do think is a really nice talent, and some things are swaying his way for the better price. But going back to Barnes, look, I had a chance to be there reporting that day. I was in the paddock at Churchill Downs when Barnes made the much-anticipated debut. And I got to say, it was really something to see, because I grew up in Louisville, and I know that, Bob Baffert, the power he's got in the local media, you would not believe the reception from the local media. Okay, so he ran in race 7. Starting race 6, everybody was setting up tripods. Reporters were there, mic flags, people coming down to shake hands. Everybody was waiting. And then Baffert brought his whole family there. They walked up. The camera shutters were going nuts. Some guy asked him to sign an autograph in his book. I mean, you realize what type of celebrity Bob Baffert is in the city of Louisville over the last 30 years. And then, of course, they go down to the wire. He's standing next to Wayne Lucas, and he even told Wayne, I heard him, he said, reminds me of Cavanier. They had that famous nose bob in the 96 Derby. But Baffert and the celebrity star power in Louisville, it reminded me in a big way when Barnes made the debut.
Love it. This is a great game because I think Rodriguez is going to lead. Certainly, Caleb doesn't think that. What say you, Ryan?
Sorry, one more time. It cut out towards the end there.
What do you think? Who's getting the lead, Rodriguez or Barnes?
Oh, that's always tough. I never know what they're going to do in the Baffert camp when they have 2, 3, 4 runners in a race. If I had to, I would say Barnes. I think Barnes goes to the front. I think he's naturally the quickest.
Well, obviously you think he's naturally going to win this race because you've got him on top. I've got him on top. Got to answer the 2-turn question first, of course. Hasn't gone that far yet. I do like the progression that Bob has taken with him, 5.5, 7, because he's going to get better with time. Obviously going to get better with distance. And go ahead. You've got him on top.
Yeah, no, I think I've been a big fan of Barnes ever since he debuted. And obviously I'm not alone in that as he's closed as a favorite, I think, in the last 2 Derby pools or pools 1 and 2 or something. So obviously he's highly regarded, but I think he's got a ton of talent. I'm rooting for him. I think the 2-turn test won't be an issue. He's bred to handle the 2 turns. As far as if he's going to love a mile and a quarter, if he gets to the Derby, who knows? But I think this test he's going to pass with flying colors if I had to guess.
Yeah, and it seems like we've heard nothing but good things from him, especially in the mornings. So expect a big effort from him. The other horse that is to be reckoned with, the 2 journalism. Of course, all of us have him in the top 3. He was one that won a nice debut going back to November at Del Mar. And the winner of the Los Al Futurity last time. A little slow on numbers, Caleb, but if he shows some progression from 2 to 3, certainly could turn the tables on these 2 Bafferts.
Yeah, the key there you said is the progression from 2 to 3, because he's one of those horses that he did enough as a 2-year-old, winning the Great Stakes, getting some Derby points, that he actually got the rare winter vacation. Gave him 1 month off, went back to the farm. He actually had 40 days in between workouts. So, a lot of these horses kind of train straight through. That's obviously what we mostly see. But journalism, he did a lot of work at 2, got himself a winter vacation, and now we'll see if he's grown at the age of 3.
Yeah. Ryan, anything else to add with the journalism?
Yeah, for those longtime PHP listeners, we did have Michael McCarthy on a little bit ago, I think before the Los Al Futurity. So I sent him a text, and he was nice enough to give me a couple words both on journalism and Formidable Man. But journalism training as well as they could ask for out in the barn, enjoyed the break. They're excited to get him back to the races, and they're expecting a really solid effort. But to be noted, he is not fully cranked up for this effort.
Okay, interesting. I guess that will be something to factor into those that haven't handicapped yet. We'll go ahead and I guess maybe we'll mention one other horse. This is the 1 Mellencamp. Did either of you really have a gauge on this horse? And it's the 3rd Baffert, but is there really anything else to talk about here?
Caleb, if you want to go first. You got something?
Well, I mean, we know sometimes the trainer of the power horses has to enter another one, but especially in this occasion, because, they chop the points. Now, what if there's a scratch? Because we have 6 horses, but, let's say if one horse comes out, do we get to the 5 cutoff point where they chop these points in half for the Derby?
I believe so. I believe it's I would need to go double check, but I believe if it's 5 at, when the race goes off, I think the points will be reduced or reduced.
It could be. It definitely could be. Yeah, this is the 3rd Baffert, obviously. It seems like it's 2, 3, 4. So we'll go ahead and move on. I'm going 3, 4, 2. Ryan is going 3, 2, 4, and Caleb is going 4, 3, 2. Next race that we'll be talking about is race 9. It's the Frank E. Kilroe Mile, Grade 1, of course. Going a mile on the turf, $300,000 purse for 4-year-olds and up. This is for the boys. Field of 8. morning line favoritism could be split between the 1 Meagher Mono Ramon for Flavien Prat and Mark Glatt, or the 3 El Potente, who's Florida bred. I actually didn't even know that, for Hector Berrios and Dan Blacker. Go ahead and get the picks up on the screen. And the other 2 are going with the 3 El Potente. I'm going with the 1 Meagher Mono Ramon. Ryan, we will start with you. El Potente, just a true miler through and through, and with a really impressive victory last time out in the Thunder Road, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Mile is certainly this one's home. And I mean, the trainer, bet against Dan Blacker at your own sake, whether it's on California soil or overseas in Saudi. He's winning everywhere he's racing right now. And his barn is red hot. El Potente comes in here in great form. I love when they kind of go through their conditions. Got the grade 3 win last time out and blew the doors off really versus that field, and comes in here, and I'm expecting another kind of same effort, 104 buyer maybe somewhere in there, and I think that puts him on top.
Caleb, anything you agree with what Ryan said? The interesting thing, I guess, would be, is he better on the lead, or do you think he's better kind of sitting off? Because he's been a little more professional when he's done that in his last 2 starts. I'm interested to see what Berrios does here and what the instructions are from Dan Blacker.
Yeah, I think it's very simple here, because you scroll up one horse and you'll see Air Force Red, who's always been loving to have the lead by himself. So I think this is pretty straightforward. The Deuce leaves out there hard. The 3 kind of tracks right off. The wild card is Formidable Man, but going to the lead last time did not work for the 4, so I would expect him to pull back. So this looks like a pretty academic setup early. The 2 gets the lead, and the 3 kind of licking their chops in second. And Ryan mentioned coming up through the ranks. Okay, started out versus maiden claimers. How about was third to Katona, who's going to be in the big grade 1 coming up? Then they go to the turf and air by 6, really nicely rose up. But I absolutely could not believe the final time of El Potente in the Thunder Road. Okay, now if you look at the Breeders' Cup mile for the whole history, the Breeders' Cup mile record is 1:31.4 by tourists, believe it or not. He beat Tepin that day. That was at Santa Anita, 1:31.4. El Potente just went 1:32.1. And if you look at the recent Breeders' Cup miles at Santa Anita, Master of the Seas was 1:32.2. Uni was 1:32.2. Wise Dan was 1:32.2. This was 1:32.1, not too far off tourist Breeders' Cup mile record. 104 buyer. I'm going to set a perfect stalking trip to slingshot home.
Yeah, I guess the only worry, which is why I'm slightly skeptical, is that can he run that again? I mean, he just ran that not too long ago. He had the best number he had run before that was a 96. So I don't know if that was just a little bit of an outlier. He's able to come back with that. And if he's able to come back with something close, if that's good enough to be able to hold off the 1 Meagher Mono Ramon, who I've got on top. Ryan, we've talked about this horse at lengths. This is a horse that I've been very skeptical of as well. He beat me in the Seabiscuit, and the San Gabriel. I wasn't a big fan of him. In the Pegasus, I really wasn't a big fan of him. But if you watch that Pegasus carefully, he really never got any chance to kind of lengthen his stride. Was really in a tight spot. Saez had a good hold on him for quite a bit of time. I know it's a lot to ask to ship out to Florida and then to come back here, but I just think he's really classy. And obviously the 2 races that he ran before the Pegasus he did absolutely nothing wrong. He was less than a length off of Johannes. So I'm going to go with Meagher Mono Ramon. Hopefully they heat things up just a little bit with El Potente. And I think Pratt will have him in a great spot, saving ground to tip out and see if he's good enough from there. So that's with the 1 Meagher Mono Ramon. Seems like it could be either of those 2. We'll go to some horses that we think have a shot to maybe hit the board. Starting with the 4, we teased with this horse, Ryan, Formidable Man. Any info from Michael McCarthy on this runner?
Yeah, asked him about this one. Got a couple things. So came back from the ship out to Gulfstream Park. Came back pretty well. The pace last time, obviously, that was unsustainable for this horse. They were flying up front. He was being pushed by another horse. Kind of just out of luck on that, but came back. I asked about the blinkers off move that I thought was interesting, because this one's run with blinkers basically in every race that you can see on the page here, every race of his career. And the answer I got was pretty simple. He's gotten a lot better about placing himself and has shown ability to win from on the pace, win from off of it. So it was just kind of a move that they think is going to work, just get this horse to relax. And they trust this horse from a maturity standpoint to place this one correctly, or have himself placed correctly in the race.
Yeah. Obviously, he's got to answer the question of whether he can do it against older horses. But obviously, we were there for that race in the Hollywood Derby, Ryan. ran a really nice race in Formidable Man. And we were down in the paddock and we saw Michael McCarthy, and he was just all business with a suit and tie. He was ready to get his winner's circle photo taken. So like him underneath, Caleb, we'll go to you with the horse that you have underneath. I believe it's this horse right here, the 7 Almendaris for Fresu and aforementioned D'Amato.
Almendaris is coming off of a poor race, 9th in the Seabiscuit to Mio Mono Ramon. But one thing I do like about Almendaris is that the races at Santa Anita miling really stick out. That gets you to the City Hope Mile, 2nd to Johannes, and then go back to actually December the year before, just missed the Mathis Brothers Mile by a nose and had a nice win before that. So I kind of think that Almendaris does like Santa Anita maybe the best. Now, going back to Mi Hermano Ramon, I think that Mi Hermano Ramon's got a chance to be the king of Del Mar this summer. And I definitely, of course, think that he could win this race because he's got a big late kick. Now, he does have some nuances. When he stands in the gate, Mi Hermano Ramon kind of has his head up and breaks a little bit tardy, but still can recover. And he's also a big, physical, imposing horse. So I'm buying stock in Mi Hermano Ramon, especially going into Del Mar this summer. But I think he's got a tough counterpart because El Potente should have a clean heels trip and going to get a big jump on the one. But it should be a good showdown late.
Yeah, no, I like it. I remember, Ryan, the City of Hope Mile was a race that we covered. I was a big fan of Almendaris, not necessarily to beat Johannes, but I'd like to say, pat myself on the back. I cashed a nice exact on that race. And the last time was just kind of weird. You don't really know what happened. He was pretty heavily bet. I believe he was a second choice that day behind redistricting and was a little bit wide, but, just never really picked up his feet. Obviously, he's had time off since then. I mentioned he had been working with the horse that we talked about in race 3. The name is escaping me right now. But this is, again, an aggressive spot to bring a horse back. And if Almendaris is ready to go, I think he's definitely worth a look. I'm going to give another look to Zio Joe. I've got him in third. I know Jackson is a big fan of this horse because he's liked him several times. Our good friend Jackson Muniz. 3 back, he actually beat El Potente. He was a decent price that day. I know that was at Del Mar. And then in the last 2, I think he's just kind of got trouble in both of those trips. I think the last one was definitely a little sneaky trouble. The Seabiscuit was a little more apparent. He's kind of down on the inside tugging, and I thought he closed nice, but the Thunder Road was a weird race because El Potente and Seal Team were kind of neck and neck for favoritism going into the gate. And then Seal Team, I believe he was the favorite at the time. If I'm remembering this correctly, Ryan, he kind of acted up and kind of delayed the starting for a little bit. And then the favoritism actually switched. It went to El Potente. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct from my memory. Definitely a hard trying horse though. For Zio Joe, just the off Lasix, I couldn't get behind this horse. Has run decent buyers still, and maybe just behind better horses. Maybe that's kind of what it was, but to me, just didn't seem to have as lethal of a turn of foot as he did with Lasix. But could definitely give a good account of himself. Yeah,
you could definitely be right. I'm going to give him a look for third. We'll go ahead and move on to the big cap, but I'm going 1-3-6. Ryan's going 3-1-4, and Caleb is going 3-1-7. Like I said, next race, the big one, Santa Anita Handicap, presented by Yamava Resort Casino, Grade 1, 4:30 local time, running for $300,000, which I believe it used to be at least $500,000, maybe $1 million back in the day. 1.25 miles on the dirt. Morning line favorite, most likely to the East Coast Invader in the 7 locked for Jose Ortiz, who is out to ride at Santa Anita on Saturday. And Todd Pletcher, second choice, most likely the other Invader, the 3-hit show for Pratt and Brad Cox. I'll get our picks up on the screen for the big one. I'm going 7-3-2. Ryan's going 1-7-3. And Caleb is going 3-5-7. We'll go to you, Caleb, with the 3-hit show. Pratt, Cox, like I said, coming off of a really nice victory in the slop down in Louisiana at Fairgrounds.
When you have a nice horse that's maybe been through the Derby, a proper handicap horse, you realize how hard it is to be able to get, a Grade 1. Like last year, King's Barn. King's Barn was a very accomplished horse. He was the only undefeated horse in the Derby. He won the Louisiana Derby, but that was a Grade 2. He was in the Pimlico Special, and finally, he got that big Grade 1 in the Stephen Foster. Look back to this weekend at Oaklawn. First mission, they've always liked the horse, Grade 2, Grade 3, but he's never won a Grade 1. And for a horse like Hit Show, he has not won a Grade 1. And I feel like Brad Cox always very wisely spots his horses. He hasn't even entered in a Grade 1 since the Belmont. And now Brad sees, this is my chance. My horse is very healthy and going well. This has not been the strongest race over the last few years. And coming out of that race on Louisiana and Lecompte, I looked at the numbers, and bottom line is, if you look at the Lecomte to the Risen Star, that was a 4-second slow track. And what happened out of the race? These horses came out in gorilla mode. Like Magnitude 108 Buyer, Built runs gigantic. I think Disco Time came out of the race with a little bit of an ailment because it was such a demanding track. So for Hit Show to dig through that, going well, 98 Buyer, Brad Cox and Pratt, I think they're going to be tough.
Yeah, I like all the things that you mentioned. Ryan, you're maybe a little more negative than both Caleb and I. What is your concern? Because I do have a main concern. I think maybe his best races are on the slop, but it could just be a case of where that sloppy track last time moves horses up.
My main concern wasn't so much the horse as much as it was. I don't think we're going to get it. I didn't think we are going to get a great price on Hit Show, and I thought that he wasn't, head and shoulders above the rest of this field. So that's the only reason I didn't have him any higher. I think he's probably the most accomplished horse in the field, but he's also never tried this distance. He has once, but that was in the Derby. So I'm willing to forgive that, even though he ran a good fifth. That's kind of an outlier race, as we all know. So. He hasn't quite gotten back out to that 1.25 miles. So I don't know. I didn't want to endorse him at too short of a price, but he's one of the more talented runners in here. So I wanted to give him a shout at third.
I'm not going to say he's an all or nothing type, but he is 8 for 16 with 1 second and no other finishes in the top 3. So I guess that might be a slight concern as well. But certainly can come over from the Louisiana that he won last time and get the job done in his first ever Grade 1. Ryan, you're going a little bit off the rails with this horse, Express Train. Our good friend Jackson says you're nuts. So tell us why he's wrong.
Yeah, Jackson says I'm nuts, but he's going to single Miramati in here because that's his favorite horse. But I think that there is enough pace in here, and this is the only horse that I think truly wants 1.25 miles out of this group. He's run it 1.25 miles 5 times. He's been in the money 3 times. Locked does probably win. He's obviously the up-and-coming horse. But John Sheriff took this route 2 years ago in 2022 with the now named Lafitte Pinkai Stakes, then to the San Pasquale, then to the Big Cap. So just kind of ramped him up in distance. I thought he looked most impressive in his 1.25 mile win in the Big Cap. Obviously, he tried the Pacific Classic, but he ran into a monster named Flightline. So we'll forgive that 1.25 mile effort as well. But I think he's going to be closing, and I think he has the ability to sit a little closer than a lot of those deep closers. And again, a lot of respect to Locked because he's the most talented horse, but I think Express Train might be finishing when the others are just kind of trying to get there. I think this is the distance he really wants, and I'm not sure about the others.
Hey, I mean, I don't love him, but I'm certainly not going to talk you off that pick. You're certainly going to get a big price with the money that Hit Show and the money that Lock both take. I've got Locked on top. It was just more of I've got questions about other runners in here. I really don't love any of the California runners, frankly. And then I've got the slop issue with Hit Show. So ended up on Locked. I don't really know what to make of the blinkers on, but I think there's some intent here. Putcher decided to skip Saudi and come here, and obviously we've kind of alluded to it. This is definitely not the toughest Grade 1 that we've ever seen. Ryan, you got him second. Caleb, you got him third. Caleb, you got any concerns with Locked?
Okay, so Locked was in one of the best juveniles of the last decade. I'd put that one up there with the Essential Quality, Ron Bauer, Jackie's Warrior juvenile. And out of all those horses, Fierceness, Muth, Locked. Don't forget that Prince of Monaco was undefeated for Baffert. Locked was the favorite in the race. And this is another horse that last year he was a little stop and start. He scratched a couple times, I think, in the Fountain Youth. He was working some A-minuses. Now, I know we're on the YouTube right now, and I know this is going to podcast, but we'll talk you through it. Click on Gun Runner here in the formulator, because never in my time in racing have we seen a horse that he himself improved that much over time, and then his progeny. Actually, go down to show all lines if you can, and just see what it looks like bottom left to show for his whole career. I mean, when he got to the Derby, he was a little slow, if you want to call it, 90 buyers. And then the first time he got 100 buyer was when Arrogate won by 100. And then when he got to 4, he got to 110, and then mid 115, then 117, 120. If you look at his top progeny, Sierra Leone was the only horse on Breeders' Cup Saturday that his buyers had gotten better every single time. And if you scroll down that whole page, even Echo Zulu, who was fast when she started, got faster to a 112. They just go up this constant curve up to the top right of the stock chart. I've never seen a sire, he himself or his progeny, get this much better over time.
Just scrolling down this list, it just reminds you of all the great horses that are by Gun Runner. But yeah, that's an excellent point there. Gun runners get better with age. I'm not really sold that Locked wants to go this far, but again, I don't really know who else wants to as well. So, it could be the one in your horse Express Train. It could be Hit Show. I think it certainly quite begs the question.
This horse also has the Jackson favorite stat of paired up buyer tops last out. So naturally, we're going to get a big progression. I'm sure this would be Jackson's top pick if you were joining us today. Miramati's in the race. So Miramati then Locked.
Pete Visco, he's our stat man. He's got a stat on Locked. Pletcher 2 for 23. First time blinkers in graded stakes. I think that's interesting. Pete says he still likes Locked to win. Still think he might be much the best in the field. Yeah, I'm just kind of in the same boat there. Let's go ahead and talk about Miramati. Ryan, I'll throw it to you because this is a horse that I feel like we can't mention Miramati and Jackson not in the same sentence.
This is
take it away.
Yeah, I got to try and see if Bob will let Jackson be the exercise rider for Miramati the way that they love each other. But this horse needs the lead, right? And with horses like JB Strikes Back, who he's going to be going forward, you would hope Midnight Mammoth. That's his best way to go, is going to the lead. You have Tarantino. Tarantino likes to push the pace. Obviously, although you have New King. I mean, who knows what Mike Smith's going to do on New King, but his best running tends to be forward, but you don't typically see the Bafferts go at each other. But we kind of spoke about this a little bit in the pre-show, but just if Miramati gets loose somehow by a length, he's going to be really dangerous, I think. But I just don't see that happening. I think there's too much other speed on here, and I don't trust this horse's form enough. Outside of the 2 lone leads he's had, he hasn't been able to get the job done. So,
well, Caleb, you're the one that actually has him in the top 3. You've got him in second over Locked, actually. So I guess I probably should have thrown it to you, but go ahead with Miramati. You got second.
But we talked earlier in the show about the correlation from the second to last column, and Miramati has gotten clear in 2 of the last 3. Not only did they maintain the margin, they actually widened the margin for a 99 and a 97. Those are both competitive numbers. This could be a race won by a 99. And, Baffert, you just can't get in front of him. He's like the pole setter at the F1 race, because if you go back to the Rebel, there was 3 bullets in the Rebel: Speed King, Monster Speed, and
did we lose him?
No, we might have.
Oh, that's all right. He was going to mention Speed King. Who else was he going to mention?
Oh, he's gonna. 3 bullets come in. Speed King. Was it Coal Battle? Did Coal Battle have a bullet going in? I forget.
It was somebody in the chat help us out. Who was supposed to go to the lead? Well, anyway, Matticat Road was the one that went to the lead. Just had to. For some reason, he is off the screen. Matt said he's thinking super hard before listing his 3rd horse. Oh, and he's back. There he is.
My bad. The Wi-Fi was so strong. But...
So you were mentioning the speeds were Speed King, and then we're blanking on the other 2.
Okay, so it was Speed King, Innovator, and Smoke 'em Wicked.
Yeah.
And they were all bam, bam, bam. Once Bullard scratched, the 8, 10, and 11 were all just speed demons. And Matticat Road got in front of all 3 of them going 45. So I do agree with Ryan in the fact that I think Miramati makes the lead, and I love Scotty McKeever's Equidedge pace numbers. He's got Miramati potentially clear, but there's too many other horses like JB Strikes Back. It's been going like 45. Even Midnight Mammoth was going 45. So I think Miramati could get the lead and it probably will clear off. It could put away some other speed. And let's just think about what the possibilities of the race call could be. I mean, he's been around for a long time, Miramati, that we kind of take for granted the fact that he's named for the track announcer. And here's Miramati calling one of his dream races for one of his longtime friends, Bob Baffert, that could be leading at odds late in the race. So I'm liking how it's shaping up, and I hope that he sends out the speed for Miramati on the call.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. Looks like Jackson called you Express Train in the chat, Ryan.
He did.
I don't know what that's all about. Last horse that we'll touch on is the horse that I've got third, New King. Who I don't think is, obviously, I know he's not as talented as the others, but I see a scenario where Hit Show and Locked are kind of making their wide sweeping moves. And I think New King's going to get a really good trip down on the inside. He's going to show some speed, but he's definitely not as fast as the 3 or 4 other speed horses that we've mentioned. And I don't think he's probably as good, but I think there's a scenario where those two make wide sweeping moves. Mike Smith just kind of keeps him down on the rail. It opens up as those speed kind of come back, and I think there's a spot for him to find a hold there and maybe get up for a piece. So that's why I've got him in third. I don't think there's really anyone else that we need to touch on. I think we pretty much mentioned everyone in the entire field, whether they can win or not. But we'll go ahead and move on to the last race. In the big cap, I'm going 7-3-2. Ryan's going 1-7-3, and Caleb is going 3-5-7. Last race we will touch on is race 11. Race 11 is allowance optional, claiming 50,000. A purse is 67,000. Mile and an eighth on the turf. This is for 4-year-old boys and up, I believe. This is the biggest field we're talking about. Field of 12. And the morning line favoritism, I think, could definitely go a number of ways. I think the bookends of the pick 5 could definitely be the toughest races, at least of the sequence that we are talking about. There are the picks up on the screen. I'm going 2-6-5. Ryan's going 7-2-5. And Caleb is going 2-8-6. Ryan, you are the odd man out to finish things off with the 7 Nitty coming off of a coming off of a win in a maiden race last time at a big price. Could certainly strike the upset yet again at a big price.
Yeah, I mean, good luck picking the winner of this race. This race was, I think, the most competitive, definitely of this pick 5 sequence, maybe most competitive on the card. I'd have to do a little bit of a deeper dive, but I just want to take the horse that fired off the layoff, fired fresh at a 1.8 mile distance for Leonard Powell and won in a good way. Had the lead basically turning for home and just kept kind of maintaining that. And Mysterious Husband came out to win his next. And there was another runner, I believe, in that maiden race that also came out to win their next. And they've all improved their buyer, so it's held up pretty well. Thank you. Over the Ocean is the other one. Came out to improve their buyer. So I thought this one came out of a decently live race. I love the second off the layoff, especially for the 180 days. I know Leonard Powell is only 2 for 4 still. That's 50%. But that's not a huge sample size, so I don't want to, rely solely on that. But just overall, horse off the layoff, they don't typically fire their best effort. They kind of race into shape. So the fact that this one came off the bench, fired a career best effort, Juan sticks aboard, and then they're coming second off the bench here. Obviously bred to love 2 turns on turf. So I'm hoping he builds on that effort. But yeah, tough race.
I like it. Hey, Katie likes some Juan sticks. I mean, that's really all you need, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go to our top pick, Caleb, with the 2 Coalinga Road. He is quite the seasoned veteran. He's 8 years old now. And he's coming off of a second last time in the Turf Classic. I thought was a really nice second. Came from way out of it. Just ended up getting beat by a length to Old Pal. Sucking off the bench for Carla Gaines, and Freysu gets the mount here.
At face value, it doesn't sound like a great bet. An 8-year-old that hasn't won in 2 years is going to be a relatively low price. But I think that this horse has always wanted 1.8 miles at Santa Anita, and unfortunately he's only had it twice in his career. Last time they rolled on for second, and then a couple years ago they actually won the Turf Classic, which was the same race. But ran second to Old Pal. Old Pal is a serious cowbred. Old Pal is safely into low 90 Bayerland, and Old Pal was coming off a race where he was flying home against Zio Joe and El Potente, who were going to be in the grade 1 earlier in the card. So I think that Freysu carving out the inside ground saver on a classy horse. I mean, it's an 8-year-old, but 91 buyers, not too far off of what we've really seen over the best of the last couple years. And Carla Gaines has been a horse she's always liked. Maybe the resume could be a little bit better, but they've always been up against Johnny Padres, who's too fast. They've been up against Kings River's Knight, who's too classy. So this is kind of the class level that the horse has been begging for at the distance that they want.
I think you're exactly right. If you look at his kind of lifetime PPs, he's not exactly a win machine. But I think he's gone against some pretty salty cowbreds, and Old Pal is certainly one of them. Ryan, I'll let you touch on him real quick because you do have him in second.
Yeah, another one that I like, just kind of second off the bench. This one's 8 years old, so more of an underneath play with those 18 seconds and thirds, but definitely one that I think merits a ton of respect in here. Caleb mentioned kind of loves this 1.8 mile that's Santa Anita. This is pretty much his his favorite distance, just going off of how he's run. So definitely warrants a good look, but hard trying horse that just always runs a good race, so I expect him in the money somewhere for sure.
Now that I think about it, I feel like you kind of liked him a little bit because I remember we were talking about how Raspoli took that mount.
I did.
I
did like him last time, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously ran well. Let's go to this horse. This is the 6 Phosphorescence, the French bred. Caleb, you've got him in third. A little more of a speed type, coming off the bench for Michael McCarthy, and the track's a pretty good rider himself, Flavien Prat.
I just think that we can look past the last race. They probably got charged up on the lead. They had the rail, so they felt like their hand was pressed to make the lead, but that's not really, I don't think, what they necessarily wanted to do. There is a rating quality there. Pratt and McCarthy, I think, what are they at now? Yeah, they're 11 for 21, which got updated last weekend, as you all were talking about. There's always been some class here, and I just like the fact that 2 starts ago, the horse ran the career best speed figure, and that was the best by 8 whole points. So that was your classic bounce number. They got it set up where they were forced from the rail. They got bet versus a nice C-Singer, and the 6 you get a nice tactical, if not on the lead, slightly off trip.
I couldn't agree more with that because he ran such a big number 2 back. It seemed like he was such a play against last time with the rail draw, the other speed. He kind of checked going around the first turn and then just never looked comfortable after that. He's had a break since then. So I like the 6 quite a bit. I've got him in second. You've got him in third. The other horse that I've got in the top 3 is the 5. And Ryan, you've got him in the top 3, which I'm glad to see. Zalamo for Leonard Powell and Kyle Frey gets the mount.
Yeah, this was another interesting runner. Obviously takes a step up here out of the kind of starter allowance company. And I know he didn't fare well too great his last time against this optional claiming bunch, but that was going way longer. Mile and 3/8 at Del Mar. So I'm going to go ahead and toss that. This runner seems to be getting better. He had the quadruple buyer angle to move up to the 87. But yeah, I mean, he's a hard trying horse. If anything, those buyers just show a level of consistency. This one is going to be, a few lengths off the pace. I think he's going to need things to go his way a little bit, but he's definitely not impossible. I don't love that he's 0 for 2 at the distance, but I think he kind of gets a new try at things here. So I'll hope the 4 out of 5 in the money tries at Santa Anita is going to be enough to get this one, maybe a third, maybe a second.
I loved his race last time. I thought it was really professional. He was kind of way out of it, and the rails were really out that day. So obviously when the rails are out, especially at Santa Anita, definitely play towards speed. He was a little rank early. He was wide on the first turn. I got a pretty good ride from DeTore, but I thought it was just a really professional win and a gritty effort to do that. Obviously steps up in class, but you've got other jockeys that are going in other places. And Kyle Frey, I think he's very capable. And just because he's on and maybe not some bigger names, I think you'll get certainly quite a price on the 5 Zalamo. Caleb, let's go to the horse that you've got in second. This is a little bit wild card in here, and we've got some love from Pete in the chat. He says he likes to play here, potential progression, first time as a 4-year-old, getting back to his best distance. You've gotten him in second. What say you?
Okay, so Moonlit Sonata showed that he can overperform the odds on debut. Was 33 to 1. There's so much information in the Del Mar maiden special weight, so we know who's fast. And you pull an upset in the maiden special weight, you've got some race time grit. Then they go right to the stakes. Face is smooth, face is nice, so don't forget about him coming back on the classic trail. Then they pop in there, run second to a grade 1 winner, Formidable Man, second to a nice Final Boss. Last time, toss it out. They got keyed up from an outside post, and even charge for gold for Phil Oviedo. He basically told us on FanDuel TV, says the best horse he's trained in the last 10 years. So you ran into the best horse in the barn, and it was not a good setup. But even without being in a stakes race on the turf, they've been second to a grade 1 winner. They faced 2 bears on the dirt and has already outperformed the odds once.
And I think the important thing to mention is Jose could just he can get on the flight whenever he wants. He doesn't have to ride here. He doesn't have to ride the finale, obviously, here for Locked. But I think that's quite the interesting jockey switch that you've got there on this newly turned 4-year-old.
One more note on that one is 3 back. This one lost to Formidable Man. I mean, if that's not great company, I don't know what is. So, yeah, I really like this pick by you, Caleb.
No, I think it's a great pick. Definitely some love in the chat. We've got a comment from here. He says he likes the pick. And then Matt says 1 on debut, so more likely to be okay off a layoff than average. Angle, a reader recently, Tommy. Super, super helpful. So love that. Then we've got a question for – oh, no, this is just a comment from Howard. Interesting horse, likes the pick, unexposed a bit, potential for big upside. And then, I think it's all systems go, bringing him back on such a big day like Saturday in Big Cat Day. So that's going to wrap up the pick 5 in the finale. I'm going 2-6-5. Ryan's going 7-2-5. And Caleb is going 2-8-6. We'll go ahead and move on to best bets. We've got one best bet from each of the 3 on the screen. Of course, starting with our guest, Caleb. He's going race 9 with a win bet on the number 3, El Potente.
I'm going to take the win bet and also the single here in the pick 5. I just think that this is a horse that's in the perfect spot, comes off an exceptional time, one of the best times I've seen so far in 2025. Dan Blacker. Barnes never been better. Let's ride the hot hand. And I like the setup just rating just off the number 2 Air Force Red. They're setting the race up for El Patente in the grade 1.
I love it. Love it. Good luck with that. We'll move on to Ryan. He's going an exacta box in the big cap itself. Exacta box with the 1 express train and the 7 locked. Ryan, floor is yours.
Yeah, I think Locked is the most talented horse in that field. So he might just win based off that. But I think Express Train fires one of his better efforts here. I'm banking on the fact that he loves the 1.25 miles more than the rest of these horses. So even at his ripe old age of 8 or 9, I think he can still pick him up. And I'm hoping he can get first or second in here, and this exacta box catches. So I'm gonna press the opinion and hope for the best.
Like it. Good luck with that. Caleb, we're going to have to make some kind of side bet here. I'm going with the win bet in the same race, going with the other key contender in the 1, Meagher Mono Ramon. Like I said, I've never really been a big fan of him, but I like him a lot on Saturday. So I'm going to go with a win bet on him, and maybe I can go ahead and cash there. I'll go ahead and bring the final banner up on the screen. Caleb, it's been a pleasure. Great to have you on the show. It's been a long time coming. Final thoughts from you and anything that you want to talk about leading into Saturday.
Looking forward to it. I'm going to be lucky to be out there on site for the coverage on FanDuel TV and being close to these great horses. Let's see if Barnes or Rodriguez or Journalism can make another big statement down the line. The California circuit's going to be really strong on the way to Louisville. But you guys do an awesome job. I know it starts with Howard and the gang, and now you've branched off into these amazing shows. But I listen to more podcasts in my car in Los Angeles than I do music. And horse racing will be the number 1 topic. And you guys did an awesome job, and I've been following.
Love it. Appreciate the kind words. Ryan, we'll finish things off with you. Final thoughts for you. I think there was a little plug with the subscribers that you wanted to give for your own channel.
Oh yeah, over obviously subscribe to this channel, the HHH Racing Network. Gotta show them some love. Road to 5K, but my channel over on the Gallop Out, couple subscribers away from 200. So if you want to subscribe to HHH and my channel over there, we got Andy Serling coming on Thursday for Big Hoof Energy, and we got PTF from In the Money joining Jackson and I tomorrow to do the Gulfstream Stakes. So big week over there, big week here as we ramp up for another huge weekend in racing. And my favorite horse is working out pretty consistently. That's Raw Ability for John Sadler. So I'm waiting to see that one in the entry box.
Looking forward to seeing that one back. Of course, go check out Ryan's channel and then check out the other shows that we've got tomorrow night and Thursday on this channel. But of course, that's going to wrap things up for our special guest, Mr. Caleb Keller, and our wonderful friend and co-host, Mr. Ryan Anderson. This has been your host, Noah Meagher, and episode 20 of Pacific Horseplayers, covering Big Cap Day and all of the stakes on Santa Anita's Saturday card. And of course, Caleb, we'd like to do this at the end of each show. So go ahead and salute. PHP out.